Let's start with the web report.
Where would
Alright, good morning. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025, just after 9 a.m. And we are going to continue our review of markup of the web report and the language that we have for the FY26 budget. So thank you to those who started to send off your what you're ready to close, and maybe those of you who've sent me things, we can go over some of those pieces right now. Jim, you sent me a bunch.
Yeah,
Do I have to find, should we find your email that
Yeah,
you sent me?
I made myself a copy.
Okay,
Okay, so to start off right off the bat, B100, which is the Secretary of Administration's office. The only question was the clean water, it's not general fund, clean water from money that they park there for grants. And remember, the commissioner came in and he said there might be a switch in that number. I did follow up with Nick Kramer, and the amount, I think in their proposal was 850,000. It actually should be $120,000 less than that.
okay, so it says 875 in my web report. And so we should subtract 120, do I have the right? But I also have
No,
850
but
too.
no,
Oh, 850 of it is.
850 is the increase.
Yeah.
You look at fiscal year.
Oh, yes, okay. So the
So-
governor's recommend instead of 875, it should be
120,000 less.
755.
Yes.
That was not in public.
Yeah, it's not general fund, so it's.
Right, it's special fund, but we still need to get the numbers right. So, okay.
Can I just interrupt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that money get shifted somewhere else, or does it just go away?
No, I think because of some change with the Clean Water Board, and that's what they take the numbers for, had to revise the numbers a little bit.
So it's not in two places, it's just in this place.
Yeah, we were just talking about this next door, so I'm glad you brought it up. Is there a letter from the Clean Water Board? Do you have any,
There probably is.
I can dig around, I'll dig around and see what I can find.
Okay.
If you need help getting it, I'm sure I can. look at it.
And or Adam could send something that was be clear about that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
So
All right.
Are you good with that then?
yeah, I am. Is everybody okay with what we're doing there?
Yeah, there is- yeah.
There was a position that was transferred to AOA, but we knew about that, and that was just a transfer. Okay, we've already closed 100.1 and 101.
We're closing 100 now?
We're
Yeah.
closing 100, B
With that,
100.
with that change.
And then we're in the 200s.
If you're staying.
Yeah, we're staying with
Yeah,
you. We're
okay.
staying with you.
208.
Okay, that
Um,
is page 14 of 66.
Yeah. Okay, this is public safety administration. Another topic.
If you say 208, if you have 81 pages, it's on the top.
Yeah, 66, yeah.
66.
So which one got, yeah.
208, we can agree on that.
Yes, B208.
B208, public safety administration. A lot of this is switching. It's interdepartment transfer. General. The total expenditure is accurate. But
It's all interdepartmental.
right.
Where are they going? The recipient of it. Does anything of this have to do with the JTOC transfer not happening?
No, that's in the state police, and I'm gonna hold on. to state
Okay.
police.
Okay,
That's a good question.
yeah,
So this is just a very general question on things like interdepartmental transfers. We've heard a lot about, well, we're transferring money from a different place to put it in here because we think, the way I have it in my head, they may not have said this directly, but we think that the better use of these funds, or that these funds should have been in this place before, or I'm just curious, like when somebody makes a decision about interdepartmental transfers, what is the reasoning behind it? Or what is are they correcting something? Are they saying, oh my goodness, we should have been charging this off to this division? Or was it funds that were just becoming available? I mean, is this a bookkeeping cleansing? Or is this something, and I'm sure there's like different answers from divisions, but in this case, is this something that are we fixing something that the administration discovered that they were doing differently or incorrectly?
I mean, at the end of the day, the expense are paid for. So a lot of the shifting is to have, for example, on personnel, it's interdepartment transfer between all the agencies of the state government because they all benefit from the personnel. And by doing that, in some cases, you have departments that receive quite a bit of federal funding to support that mission. And when you transfer it that way, you actually helps you pay part of that with federal funds. So there's a positive reason for doing it. I don't know what
It's not usually like a mistake. It is, as Jim said, sort of sharing the cost of the expense of a particular department. So like the Department of Human Resources, everybody benefits from. So there could be interdepartmental expenses that you have to bear the cost. Your department has to bear the cost of some of these sort of things, right? And you did that too, right?
Yeah, so partly, say for example, A&R used the lab, say they used the agriculture lab to do some sort of testing. And there'd be a charge from A&R and they would pay that through through a transfer, departmental transfer. Could be that. Some of them say there was dispatch. I don't know that that's happening, but say state police had most of the dispatch, but Fish and Wildlife, motor vehicles, the other agencies were also using it, and they might pay that by an interdepartmental transfer. So that's usually the way.
They're sort of just paying for intergovernmental expenses that they use.
All right,
They're not-
this is more,
They're not subverting the purpose of the money. So if money was appropriated for a certain purpose, they were not repurposing that money by this method.
okay, no, I'm coming off of 4 years of washing ARPA funds and cash and other funds in ways, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but using it in a
Swapping
things out, saying this is a more appropriate use for ARPA funds so that we can free up cash for something else. And I know that that's been a mindset.
Right.
That could happen.
And so this is sort of going back to, I mean, we've always had this, but we don't have all those other federal choreography things happening.
Okay, the biggest change in terms of the money, just over half of the general fund increase is something we dealt with in the BAA, and that's putting what do they call it? Spellman or Belport systems that they use for their the software when an officer makes their record or stop.
Oh, it's the body camera stuff?
No, it's not.
No, it's on their
body camera.
computer.
It's
This is the system.
the system that records everything that they do and it makes a record when they make a stop.
Oh,
et cetera. And that previously was paid for by criminal records fund. And it's not generating the revenue that it did. So they did in the BAA, they transferred it.
Right,
This is obviously,
a full year worth
full
of
year
that.
report of the same thing. Other than that, it's. Yeah.
Right.
So that part, this section, I'm fine with.
Okay.
It's the state police, asking
get
that
there.
we hold because that is where the big JTOP, transfer.
Lots of, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are good questions to ask. We don't know what you don't know unless you ask the questions. So please keep asking these questions. It's a good test for us. And if we don't know, we'll ask Maria because she knows everything. Did we miss anything from that with the interdepartmental transfer?
Um, I don't think you did miss anything. I mean, I guess the idea is that you'll have one department that a service will be provided by a second department. So,
They get charged for it.
correct,
There's no free lunch.
correct. That's the lunch.
I mean, it's a little bit like fee for space, interagency. I mean, BGS operates the buildings, has all the costs, but they're not the ones using it.
So that's the rent, right? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay,
All right.
so I skipped, state police, which is B 209. If you go to B 210, criminal justice services, really, not much of a change. It's 300 some odd thousand increase over the current
Business
year.
as usual. kind
Yeah,
of.
yes.
Okay, so we good with that, everybody? I'm not seeing anybody saying no.
B 211, a lot of money, but it's FEMA money in and out. So if you look at it, there's a $22 million increase, but it's the operation itself is pretty straightforward. And I didn't see any red flags.
What number is this? I'm sorry.
I'm
B
sorry,
211.
211.
So, and that's.
The only cap, we're not there yet, is there's been a request from, I think it was in Human Services letters, it might be in the Ag letter as well, to put some ongoing base money for the food bank and emergency management when they have a disaster, and we're gonna have them, that they have a partner ready to go with water and whatever else. So and I talked to the director of emergency management, and he thinks that would be great to have. Obviously, it's not in the governor's recommend.
Right.
So
That's the one thing saying about.
yeah. And whether we can do all of that or a part of it would remain to be seen, or any of it. So,
And I'd say we do it on one time if we were gonna do it. I'm
yeah, that's fine. So,
loath to put anything in base that we don't,
okay,
until, yeah,
okay, they had asked for base.
I
so,
know. Everybody asks for base.
If you don't think we can do it in base, we can close this off and put it on a one-time list.
Okay,
So totally.
and that's where it is, and that's, yeah, I would
Okay.
say let's do it in one time.
Okay, so,
That doesn't mean that we've just agreed to do that in one time, but we will consider it in the one part of the one time.
fine.
My curiosity would be is the food that are they gonna be MREs, or are they gonna, things that aren't gonna,
MREs, meals ready to eat.
are they gonna be? Well, my concern would be that things are gonna go bad if they stay there for years and years, and you have to go away, start over, but maybe that's not an issue.
Yeah, I don't know that they've got to that level
Okay.
yet. They do work together after they get some FEMA help, when a disaster strikes. There's obviously a delay. And I've been talking to the director, I mean, they can get water 2 days, but, you need it today.
Well, and I also can imagine that they maybe fence off amount of food at the food bank somewhere for this. And then they would use the older stuff, so they would always be fresh. They wouldn't have 20-year-old canned peas or something like that.
No problem.
It's beans that worry me.
But the regular ongoing, I didn't see any red flags.
Okay,
If you're good, we can check it, and then we can talk about the food bank.
yeah, and that's in our one-time list, so. Okay, everybody good with that? Being no nos, let's move to you, get everything.
Next is 212 fire safety. Again, pretty straightforward. Your typical increases, salaries and benefits. Total increase is 800,000, $13 million.
So 700,000 of the increases, there's an increase in special funds.
Was fire safety they do have it.
Yes, and they're using 700,000 more. They've addressed where that would go.
56,000 for software. There's an 88,000 increase in their fee for space. And I remember there was some reconfiguration, I think, in terms of the academy, how they,
That's right.
and then the big increases are salary and benefits.
Out of special funds?
Yeah,
Okay, all right. Fine. Is everybody good with the fire safety piece? Okay, we'll close 212.
B 213 is the lab. Again, it was pretty straightforward. There's nothing.
We got more.
They got, they do utilize chunk of federal funds. So basically almost 400,000 of their increase is from federal funds and just under 400,000 is from general fund in terms of their increase.
Any questions on that? Okay, we'll close that for now. B 213.
And as I said, keeping the police open.
Right. Okay.
And
Yeah.
then I had a couple these sections. I don't know how much you want to skip around.
That's fine. We're gonna just do your stuff. So
Okay,
we'll
so
skip around. It's good for everybody to know.
D 101,
D is in,
D is the dog, 101.
wait, you know what? I think that's in the language. I think any of the D stuff is in the web report, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the language.
It's in the language.
You-
That's
you
okay.
would cut it out now?
Okay.
Okay,
So fund transfers start on page 17 of the language. Anything right up to.
okay, so the sport betting,
Oh, yes. That's at the bottom of page 18. At the top of 19.
yeah, C 101C1. The bottom of page 18, that's the estimated net revenue, 7.6 million for sports wagering.
Okay.
I would recommend we accept that.
Okay. Any questions on that one? Okay.
And same way with subsection 2, the liquor control fund, they're just shy of 15 million that they put in there, 14,849.
Which is lower than the 21.1 or whatever.
Right.
I was just gonna ask, confirming that the reason for that, they are saying that the 21 was wrong or was overestimating.
Yeah, we were taking the 21 million and weren't generating 21 million for a few years now, which is why we had to backfill it during the BAA.
Well, and we hadn't put all of the expenses associated with the staff into that,
Pension
the
and-
pension
right.
and then
They
other
weren't
retirement
accounting for it
expenses.
correctly, so plus, we had a few years ago, as you remember, language in there about keeping the state share.
We did a fixed amount.
Turns out. And then the additional challenge was, liquor sales were down a little bit.
Right, and the taxation portion of it was a constitutional issue, which changed, which
Yeah,
led to
and
the.
they- Yeah, and they were trying to make it up with markup.
Yeah.
But we still gotta sell the product.
Yeah, okay.
And then I had some E sections,
Page 23.
E 100.1. Okay, it's on page,
23. It's this one, right?
yes. Yes, I'm sorry, it's in the middle of page 23, number 4. A subsection 4, This was, and we talked about it in the, I believe in the BAA. But this was to catch up. Did we put this in the BAA?
No, we
Maria?
didn't.
We did.
We-
But
We
this,
put number 2 in the BAA.
okay,
And then we had Doug Farnham come in and talk to us about the 30 million.
but this was to help with the 2024 floods, I believe.
I think it was
The non-federal share related to disaster spending
right.
costs incurred from the federally declared disasters in state fiscal. I think this was Addison County and some of the 24 floods.
Just that. My notes, when did we have Douglas in?
And I have my notes indicate that this section was not in the budget.
That's right.
Which is I tell.
I think this is really.
Their explanation was expand the use of appropriations as match for all federal funds, not just FEMA, for all federally declared disasters in fiscal years 24 and 25.
I think we have it. Do you have notes from
Yeah,
this? Tiff?
my note is that this is a state match for state buildings.
Oh,
And the broader language would allow the agency of administration to use, some of that money for road damage, about 5 million.
yeah, it doesn't change what's appropriate. It just allows them to match with federal funds that may not be FEMA for those disasters.
Yeah. They still had 28 million left, but yes, I had something for the state match for T-fund related things like the Federal Highway Administration.
Okay.
Roads.
That would be consistent with federal funds, yeah.
So it wasn't just FEMA money, they also would be able to use it.
Chris, do you have any other perspective on it?
Chris, for joint fiscal, I agree with your description, Representative Harrison, that FEMA is not the only funding source that provides federal aid. Another big one is federal highway, they have their own emergency relief program.
Okay.
My understanding from that testimony, I think I was here when it happened, was, this was to broaden the eligibility of that money to cover those additional disasters as well as not just make it FEMA specific.
So what I didn't ask at the time, because we didn't know the scope of things, is what if it was 25 million instead of 30 million? I don't.
No, that's
So-
no, fair question. I
Yeah.
didn't,
So I guess I would like to hold this open.
Okay.
Because it's a big number and
I think probably most of the 30 million has probably already been spent. But I don't know.
well, I had made a note that said still have 28 million left.
Oh, okay, maybe you're right.
So,
So the question is, how much federal money is available? Is this an appropriate amount to match all the federal money that's available for the purposes? Right?
Okay, I got
Well,
more work.
yeah.
Let's hold it open.
Yeah.
Okay.
so that would be one of my questions.
Yeah,
Ask
no,
him,
no, fair
what if
question.
it's 25?
Yeah, fair question.
What if it's 15?
You're looking under all the rocks.
I'm looking under all the rocks, all the sofa cushions. Okay, so
Okay,
we'll keep that
so-
open. Thank you.
Can we go to E208? Which is on, I have page 27 near the top,
Yes.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
Standard language, looks the same as the year ago, and the year before that. And
So this is a performance-based contract with Essex County.
Yeah.
Okay,
we do it, I guess, every year.
right. John, you don't have Essex, is Essex County, are you part of Essex County?
That's town.
You've got, it. Yeah, I know, but I can't remember whether that's
So I was-
California, is it vote? Okay, so this,
I have six.
so when I was coming back on break, we 251 club towns, so I did your whole district.
So you know how far I drive.
I did. Victory was having their town meeting before we turned in at the town.
Oh, did you win it?
I saw a Jeep in there.
You should have popped in.
I know, I saw a Jeep there and I wanted to see if, we're trying to bag all the time we could, but I saw,
That was my last towns on my tour here,
Yeah.
Victory and then Granby, so I had
Yeah.
dinner with the folks.
it was interesting trying to figure out where the town center was and everything. But I went to Guildhall,
Yes,
which is where the Essex County Courthouse is.
that's right.
I didn't really, so I saw it. I mean, I took pictures of it. So I know where I said to my husband, he'll be so excited. This is where the publicly accessible bathroom is going to go. Here's the. He was so
I know you started
excited.
thinking Massive construction go.
Now I understand when they talk about, I have it in my head and I actually have a picture on my phone of it, so. Yeah. So,
Found it.
Essex County was great. That was my hope. Close to 08.
208.
Unless the representative from Essex County has a problem with it.
I have no problem.
On 209, A, B are in language as well.
Are they the standard amounts of money?
Yes. Yeah, the amounts
Okay.
haven't changed.
Okay,
The only difference I noted is that it's standard but using general fund money.
we didn't have general fund here before? Ah,
What would that?
Was this
note
part of
about?
Wait a minute. That's C. I haven't got there yet.
That's right. That's.
C is the JTOC transfer that isn't happening.
Ah, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I-
A and B are the
Yep.
standard language,
Okay,
and I was fine with those.
okay,
C, is the replacement of state police
Yeah.
vehicles that we do every year, but it had, I guess, previously been shared with the transportation fund or paid for out of the
that was the
transportation fund.
JTOC transfer.
Right, so if you feel pretty good that we're going to in fact do the recommendation here, then we can check it off.
Mhm.
But if you don't think you're transferring it, then you can
Right.
hold it.
So this is where we have the conversation about the JTOC transfer. Which we have got.
This is only part of it.
I know, but this is where we have the conversation
Yeah.
because we,
Right.
or we hold it and
Yeah.
have the conversation later, but I don't know that we're gonna have any new information. And Chris, feel free to join in on this because didn't you help present this?
I did, Madam Chair, and Representative Harrison is exactly right on that item C. That language about that $2.1 million being earmarked for vehicle replacement, that language appears already in Title 19 that speaks to the use of the T fund JTOC transfer. So another piece of the language that the governor proposed with doing away with the transfer is to strip out that language from Title 19. But $2.1 million earmark for vehicle replacement is being brought in and made specific to the general fund. So this is not a shift of policy by any
No, no,
means.
no.
It's just being brought in because.
Shift
the
of
fund-
money. And so
It's a shift of the funding source, and since another piece of the language proposes to remove this 2.1 million thing from Title 19, it's folded in here.
Right. So this is why we're having the conversation about the JTAC. So it's not about the 2.1 million, although it would be good for future to have you look into, does it always have to be 2.1 million? What if we stretch it out 6 months and, those kinds of things? Because
Yeah.
as money gets tighter, do you have something?
No, I have a little history behind this. I don't know if they're only spending 2.1 or more than that. This was put into statute years ago by the transportation committees out of concern that state police vehicle replacement was falling behind schedule. So this was a way for the transportation committees to try to, for lack of a better word, earmark some funding to ensure that vehicles were being replaced in a timely manner.
How long has it been 2.1?
Oh, I have to go, it's, in my entire tenure here, it would have been prior years.
So
it would have been.
anything is probably low.
It could, it's.
I would think it's a volume
Vehicles have
discount.
increased.
It's a floor, I think.
And so do we know that they're spending this money? Is there receipts? Are there are there actual expenditure proof that the money is being used for this purpose over time? Is this the right number every year or?
That would be an excellent question for the CEO. I don't know.
Why keep putting the money in if we're not sure? Or I mean, that's not the right way to phrase this, but we don't know if they're spending the money.
Maria, do you have some insight into
So
this?
the one thing I'll add to what Chris is saying is that, there were years when the public safety budget was really very tight, and so one of the things they would do is spread out the replacement schedule. And so it became an issue where the cars were falling apart. Anyway, so that was one of the reasons behind putting language in there that said specifically, you've got to spend this amount of money. Now, regarding whether or not they spend it or what the actual amount is, we can check in with finance and management or public safety to see what the actual number is. I mean,
Of actually spent.
yeah, exactly. But there's been a lot of inflation as you're on the cars, so.
Would there be anything in the carry forward report about that?
I have no.
I have a carry forward report.
I have an answer to the other question. That 2.1 was set in FY 2018.
Okay, so we're into
8 years.
8 years. This will be the 8th year. I'm just checking to see if there's anything. State police. What is this under? State police vehicle, state police. Has some carry forward for a drug task force. And regional dispatch, some of which we have required them to do.
Correct.
There's nothing in here related to cars. In terms of a carry forward. For what that's worth.
I think we need to dig into our budget detail to see what.
Okay. So we can look at that. But I also want to. Make a decision on the JTOC transfer, and Chris came and talked to us about it. And the money is basically earmarked, and the T fund is it's bleeding. And so this may be the year where we bite the bullet. I mean, that's where I'm leaning towards. This is the year that we don't reverse what the recommendation from the governor is, and we just bite the bullet on this. Are people good with doing that? I mean, that's.
So please explain to me one more time about the JTOC and where it's been and we're transferring it because we're
Yeah,
taking
I'm gonna have
pressure
Chris
off
come and
of-
talk to us about that. You, Chris? You must have known we were gonna talk about this today.
YouTube helps. Good morning, everyone. Chris from Joint Fiscal. I presented on this topic with my colleague Logan a few days ago and prior to the town meeting break. So you might be able to pull up my documents on the HAC committee website. But just to remind the committee, the JTOC transfer is really not a transfer, and it really has nothing to do with JTOC anymore. So it's really not what it's called. What it is the $20.25 million appropriation from the T fund to the state police that you've seen in recent years' budgets, and that would show up in B209. The governor's proposal is to end the practice of using $20.25 million of T fund to fund the state police, and instead keep that $20.25 million in the T fund to support the Agency of Transportation to help them deal with their funding needs. And there were some documents that were provided that show what projects the agency would have to cut or curtail if they don't have that $20.25 million, because most of that money is used to match federal funds to do projects. So in order to cut $20.25 million of state funds, you need to cut far more of that in total project spending because of the associated match that you wouldn't be able to draw down. So that's the high level, and I'm happy to dig into any other.
And it is on our, I mean, I just pulled it up again on our website. The T fund has been hurting right dramatically because of the fuel efficiency and things, so the gas tax is not.
That's right.
Things.
There's been a steep decline in revenue time here, and it's caught up to them. And if you continue to transfer that money out, they're going to be in a significant, seriously, big deficit hole here. We got that spreadsheet here from transportation here. One person provided here to us. It was the chief engineer.
Mhm.
We went through all that, and if we not move to somewhere else, it's going to put him in the hole by 50.
Right. Lynn?
Yeah, does the, I'm not sure, maybe you're the one to ask. Does this have anything to do with, when you look at the match, it's like a 4-to-1
Yep,
match?
sure does.
Does this have anything to do with the amount of money we've been trying to put away for the IIJA and IRA make sure we have a match when that money comes in?
I think we got in another place.
It is the same issue you're trying to deal with. And the issue is that, I mean, obviously costs are going up across the board, not only like with the labor side, but with construction. There is an enormous surge of federal money that the state has received under the IIJA. And our organic growth in state transportation revenues is very flat because of fuel efficiency and demographics. So we don't have a surge of additional car registrations, for example. And if we're using less gas, every year in the revenue forecast moving forward, T-fund revenues are expected to grow by way less than 2% year over year. So there's a structural challenge there where T-fund revenues are just not keeping up with the demands that are being placed upon them.
And in fact, the Transportation Committee optimistically suggested that the other 1/3 of the purchase and use tax that currently goes to the ed fund, the transportation fund, which is $52.5 million. And, so that would affect your property taxes. So everything's interconnected. At any rate, that's not our issue to deal with. That would be the Ways and Means Committee, because that's a revenue piece. So and
there's no opportunity to leverage any federal money for police vehicles. So in other words,
That's
we're
right.
not leverage money, so we're getting more money for use.
No, we typically can't use that for that. And most of the federal money we get in the transportation space is really for capital projects on the interstate highway, the state highway network, bridges, things of that nature. It's the maintaining the system, running DMV, and a lot of other things. We need state dollars to fund those, in addition to state dollars to draw down the match to do the capital projects.
John, there's something you wanted to.
Well, I was going to add here, if you look at Matt Walker's letter, outlines reasons for that, and,
that's good.
if that money gets transferred out, that's cancel out 11 significant projects here, which if we do that, that becomes exponential with them in terms of, they just can't, like the next year. It's not one of those situations. We need to make sure we do what we do.
Right.
And just to acknowledge that we've noticed that the revenues from the gas tax in particular have been declining for some years.
Since 2005.
And our response to that is to not raise the gas tax.
Gas tax has been increased but not in the last roughly decade. Fees have been increased and the purchase and use tax revenues have increased due to vehicle prices and, additional demands. But yeah, otherwise there hasn't been a lot of organic growth in the revenue base.
And the reason and the use of those taxes would have been, again, to fund these projects that needed the state match.
That's what all those transportation funds.
Yeah, I just want
Another
to
thing.
say it out loud because we've identified the problem and we haven't fully taken the responsibility for continuing the funding of the road needs that we have, regardless of how much it's gone up. We've not matched the same income or revenue source to pay for those matches over the last at least 10 years.
I would say in recent years, the legislature has recognized that there's an issue here. And they adjusted DMV fees a few years ago to account for inflation, but also to Representative Dickinson's point, in the last few years, you all have parked some additional general funds in the cash fund to then transfer over to the T fund to help make sure the T fund can meet its match. So these are all the.
We end up doing this kind of with the money.
Exactly. These are all strategies to try to deal with the same underlying structural challenge.
Keeping the box the same size is what, to use the box phrase.
Yeah.
They're using the same size box and just shifting the sand around to, anyway, I just want to, it's a big hit to think that we're transferring this to that.
Well, and one could argue, why did we ever transfer it from the transportation fund to the general fund in the first place, whenever that started all over?
Exactly. That was a question that I had.
Yeah.
It was just really.
Right. It was now at that time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add, maybe you can answer how this fits into this. We did a TIB
Yep.
That was
A
for-
transportation infrastructure bond.
And that, now, that, my understanding is the gas tax based on the number of gallons you sell rather than the price. And that, and during that time, when Tom was talking about, we didn't raise the taxes, the price of gas was going up. And there was a lot of to do about, it was like $4 a gallon at one point. The TIB is based on the price of the gas.
It is.
So how does that fit into, how does the TIB fit into this?
So the TIB fund so we have a hybrid gas tax system. There's a fixed component and a variable component that's based on price. And the T fund gets the fixed 11.345 cents of the fixed component plus the 4% price thing, the 4% price assessment. The TIB fund gets the 2% assessment on gas. And that will fluctuate more with the price of gas. So if gas is really, really high, more money will come in. If gas is really low, it will bring less revenue in. There's a floor at 3.96 cents a gallon, I think, for the tax. So the money that goes into the TIB fund, which is a separate little fund, can be used to either pay for the debt service on TIB bonds, which we currently don't have any outstanding, or it can be used to pay for capital projects on a pay-go basis. And that's how that money has been used recently.
So it's not used as a
So,
match.
well, it is used as a match, but we don't use it to borrow funds to use as a match right now. We use it on a pay-go basis to match. So if you look at the white book, the big transportation capital binder, you will see primarily in like the bridges section, you'll see TIB money in there matching federal money to do bridge projects. So that's where that gets worked in.
Okay, this has all been very interesting.
Well, so we are
So
going
can we
to,
hold on C because
oh, yes.
I think it's fine, but Maria just forwarded me on the total. You had some questions about the total expenditure. And I just want to look at it.
Okay,
So
all right.
are you?
It-
Are you?
Let's
okay with
hold
this?
on, let's hold on this, but
Yeah.
I also want to, but the JTOG transfer question is a separate one.
Yeah.
And are we comfortable with canceling the JTOG transfer?
Yes.
I was not convinced 2 years ago. I'm convinced this year. So that's a big deal and a big section of the budget that we will do. Everybody okay with that? You're good?
Yes, I am. I agree with Representative Stevens, like, this isn't, like, I'm tired of plugging holes, you know, when we have systemic needs, and we're doing this in healthcare, we're doing this in transportation, we're doing this with human services, and applying kind of one-time solutions when we have money, and it makes me very uncomfortable. It feels like you're not being very good stewards of of our resources. We know what it costs to repair roads. We know what it costs to, so,
Yeah.
sorry for that speech, but.
No, you're allowed to
it's-
give speeches. This is
it's-
Thanksgiving time. It's okay.
it's, you know, it's not about living within our means, the world is what it is, and it costs what it does, and I just think that we have to kind of look at the whole picture. And I know that Ways and Means looks at pieces of it, perhaps we together could look at the whole picture.
We do have some systemic structural issues.
And just to add what you said, so thanks for saying that, because this is not something that's gonna go away next year. Here, we can't take 20 million and think about using it somewhere else next year, just given where we are. I think we all understand that better here now, for sure. And there's more, you know, the Transportation Committee also reminded us about something that was established in 2023, the funding a mileage-based user fee for battery electric vehicles.
They want to establish,
There's already some language somewhere here that was passed in 2023, directed agency of transportation to seek federal grant funding.
right, but it says the US DOT is unlikely to execute the grant and provide funds.
Right, but we don't know that for sure today. So Matt is trying to catch up with Joe Flynn to see what the status is of that.
Yeah.
It was submitted here, but apparently you're not really sure if we're gonna get it because of.
Well, these days, yeah.
So, he didn't know what time frame it would be
Right.
for yes or no.
So I think their big present is the JTOG transfer cancellation.
Right,
And I
but if we
probably,
get that would help move this piece along in some.
absolutely. Dave?
Is this in part, we're making this decision because there's not the political will to increase the gas tax? Is my thinking correct?
I would,
There's been conversation about that. Just what if we did that?
yes, I think
But
the
you're not saying-
transportation committee's talking about that. The only thing we did last year, Dave, was we increased registration fees.
Right.
2 years ago,
DMVs.
yeah.
On the,
2 years ago, yeah.
No, I'm not talking about DMV fees. I'm talking about
EVs.
electric vehicles and
Right.
hybrid electric
That was
vehicles.
last year.
That was last year. And so it was twice as much for a full EV and half half for the plug-in electric hybrid. So we did a little something, but there has not apparently been political will, Dave, to increase the gas tax. It hasn't been increased, well, I guess it was, but
Well, with TIB, it was an increase.
yeah,
Been about a decade, yeah.
yeah, it's been a while.
And if I could just add what you just mentioned, Madam Chair, about the additional EV infrastructure fee that was put into place beginning this past January, that's sort of intended to be a bridge until the mileage-based user fee can be implemented as a way of capturing some revenue from EVs. And I would just note that to Representative Iacoboni's point, regardless of what the tax is set at, we expect the decline in consumption to continue in future years. So the base upon which you're drawing the revenue is not growing.
Did you? Okay, anybody else? So can we agree that we will agree with the governor on not doing the JTAC transfer, JTAC?
Yes.
Everybody's okay on that?
Can we
Nothing. It's gonna go away. I mean, this year, you're not gonna see it again.
See that?
This is like the repeal of a sunset.
Take
We're
my
gonna,
arm, but I'm actually.
Okay. so we agreed on that. There we go, Maria, you can add that to your, but we are gonna hold off on closing.
I'll get some information on.
Yeah.
Totally.
Lynn?
I would just like, for giving speeches, I can give a little speech here. I do think it is a matter of us continuing to live within our means personally. I mean, I've seen this over the years. This is not the first time it's been tight.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we have cash cows. And when we have them, we use them.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets transferred all over. And that's not all bad, because we all do that in our personal finances at home. I mean, this is how we can get through. But, we are now, what we thought was gonna be maybe a good steady year has turned into a huge question mark. And I think that, we went through COVID, and I was here when the real estate, the Great Recession, and we did UI, and we did all kinds of things. So, but we are gonna have to learn a little bit, because it's gonna be hard. We have built structural deficits all over the place.
Yeah.
We chose to do that.
Yeah.
That's our choice.
Well,
We have to sit down and find a way to.
Prices have gone up and salaries have gone up and healthcare's gone up. There's a lot of pieces that
Can I
are.
do one last section?
It's our chance when people get a chance to say things. So now we'll go back to you, Jim.
Down on the same page, 212, fire safety is standard level.
So you're happy to close section 2. Everybody okay on that?
I think that needs 30 more minutes.
Well, there are things about which we need to have some conversations and not just blindly check things off. So,
I gave you the list of ones that are still.
yeah, so anything you haven't talked about is still open. Okay.
Designing dry hydrants, sure, no problem.
We do 55,000 every year.
But actually, they actually do local, we have a fire pond over in our road, and it had to be replaced or something. I think the town got a little grant to help with that replacement. Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. I also heard from Dave about closing a couple of your DCF pieces, Dave. So I think that's in the web report, right?
Yes, is that B317? I'm looking it up again. I just moved off it.
I'll look it up too. It's in the 300s.
Yeah, the services.
Well, just before that is the admin.
Yes, 316.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think we can close 316 because there's, the ups they had were standard ups that everybody has.
Yeah.
There was no policy going on there, and there's nothing in the committee letters doing that.
Okay.
But on 317, I'm still doing a little more homework,
Yep,
very close, but I want to hold off
okay,
until I get to the business manager.
that sounds good.
I'm sorry, that's all I have today.
That's okay. We'll take it, whatever we can get. Okay, thank you, Dave. Let's see.
Sorry.
Do you have something? I have something else from John. I'm looking at the emails I got.
Okay. I didn't see.
So John, let's go to yours.
Sure. Didn't get a chance to send a note until recently. To give you an update. Let me talk about higher education here first. On a couple of things. I've already kind of mentioned transportation here. So the only thing
Right,
I was just wondering about when I met with Matt Walker here the other day and just asked him, is there any update about this grant?
yeah,
He's
okay,
right here and so
yeah,
the other tax stuff, that's a ways and means issue here. So he's just doing a check back on that. I
Okay.
didn't really see anything in there from transportation.
Yeah. Well, I know he added that additional 3 million, which will be in our one-time.
Right,
Some of this, if there is a grant related thing, that may be one of those things that we just don't do anything about, and if the Senate gets it,
right.
right?
Yeah, so,
It may have-
there's a certain amount that was set aside, but then there was the remainder that the grant was supposed to kind of
Right.
pick up here. So I just said, see what you can find out.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
this is.
So we'll keep that part open.
So I think just keep that part open.
Yeah.
Everything else, I think we can go ahead.
Okay, so you mentioned broadband, Public Utilities Commission, and Public Service Department. Did we already close all those?
We did just in draft form. I just followed up just to make sure. there's
Okay, so you're good,
Yeah,
you're still good on
I'm good. I'm
those?
still good on those.
Okay,
So those four for right now. Good.
okay.
And then higher ed,
But you want what are the numbers?
oh, yeah. Shoot, yeah.
Must be under the 200s.
No, it's, University of Vermont is V600.
Oh, we were just checking out on the other ones that you had just
Oh,
said to
I'm
close.
sorry.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait, so I don't have,
So B233, that's public service.
right, so we didn't close that.
We did not,
Regulation and energy,
right, they've got something.
that went up about $3 million, $3.2 million. Looks like they got some federal funds. B233.
That was in your letter.
No, I'm looking
Just looking at the web.
I'm looking at the web report, which is on page 21 of 66, if you have 66 pages.
Page
It looks like
25.
federal funds went up quite a bit.
Sheet here. But I apologize, that's the bill back money.
Yes, it is.
It is.
It is, yeah.
So,
Do you see on there why the federal funds would have gone?
Look it up.
That's $1.5 million of, it's good. Hopefully it'll stick. They got the federal funds, but they didn't put.
That's right now. I've got to see if I can find it. The INJ. Oh, yeah. That's right. It's the Inflation Reduction Act, the note on the budget document says negotiating awards, but they have a variety of different federal funding sources. The IIJA funding is at about let's see if this makes sense, is about, I mean, it's spread.
It's just a lot of different things.
A lot of different
Yeah,
categories.
I
I
have
don't
to
think the budget sheet they gave us.
Yeah, to see if it's clear. It's
Okay. And you have the ups and downs too, John? You can,
Yes.
that's a big jump for them. Right. Well, who charges?
The PUC,
Department. Okay, but
They had to do well, that's part of their expenses. There's their sources, sorry.
I mean, some of the.
Yeah.
Broadband board.
Right, there were three positions, indeed standard positions, they're all vacant and not budgeted. That's on their sheet here.
Yeah, there should be something in their federal funds column.
I mean, it's just lumped.
It's just,
It's
they just put a lump in?
Yeah, and so even on the, where it lists the federal funds, it just says federal funds, and it has a,
It doesn't have a category over to the left anywhere?
On their budget sheet, they do, the packet they handed out to us. We all have that.
What are the increases under the federal funds category? There are ups and downs.
okay, I found it, sorry.
You got it?
I don't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead, Maria.
No, go ahead, Maria.
Okay, so the total that you can see in the budget is 2,439,257.
Right.
It doesn't have the year over year, but it's made up of state heating oil propane program, that's only 5,000, but the big dollars are, one call is 171,000, enhancing the resilience of the electric grid is 256,000. The state energy program, it's, there's 2 letters that are not in focus, that's 297,000. There's broadband equity access and deployment program, 320,000. There's the pipeline safety, 325,000. Solar for all, 397,000. And the big one is state energy program, 559,000.
And those are all federal funds.
And yeah, and this is, if you're looking at their budget, the document they submitted, it's on page 38.
Okay.
You know, if you want to go back.
Yeah.
It doesn't, what this doesn't show you is, you know, which ones have increased over 25.
That's okay.
Right, they just had the straight columns.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know, this is the problem with the ups and downs. Okay, well, that's interesting to know, and when I look at some of those, I wonder, I assume that this is the expectation of getting them, and I wonder how much of this they're gonna get. You know,
Right.
that's
I
just,
don't know.
this is a little red flag, we will go with what they've got, because that's all we know, and maybe it'll be fine, but some of those, there were words in some of those grants that are not popular these days in Washington, so we don't know whether we'll get them. And signed contracts are being broken, so. Okay, so now it makes sense. So you're good with closing this, John? Okay, everybody okay with that? Thank you. We had closed broadband. And then you were checking, John, on the Public Utility Commission, B 234. It actually went down. Hmm. Thinking this is pretty standard in the
Yeah.
utility
The
committee.
Public Utility Commission closed for now.
Okay, everybody good with closing that one? Okay, so those were the ones that you'd sent me that you were ready, and I know you're meeting, John, with some of the higher ed folks, that's in the B6.
Yeah, I got to follow up here with each of those areas there. Sharon Scott requested meeting with me here actually today, this afternoon.
Okay.
She just wanted to kind of talk through some more budgetary pieces.
Okay.
I didn't see that letter from institutions had anything in there at all about their capital budget requests.
And they wouldn't necessarily come to us, that would be, they would deal with it in their budget.
They wouldn't come to us.
It wouldn't come to us saying anything.
What I don't know is if higher ed went to them.
they always have a.
I'm sorry.
We always have a piece in there for higher ed.
Yeah, so check with the chair.
Just check with.
Yeah, I'm just gonna check my chair.
Yeah, I think that'd be good, or the vice chair, whatever, and ask about that. Because that wouldn't show up in here. The UVM and the state colleges and the allied, we closed the allied health. These are all sort of their typical base things, and some of them ask for one-time things, which is a separate conversation we'll have. So the question is whether you're okay on the base for these at this stage.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we close those?
Yeah.
Which number?
So B 600.
600 to the
Yeah.
six.
I think they all got like the 3% increase. Vermont State College is B 602 and VSAC B 605. We'd already done B 603, the allied health.
That's right.
Okay, on the ASAC. The scholarship money that,
That's my conversation I have to have with Scott John.
okay, would that go in here or would that, if we did anything, how would that
See
go in?
what That's on our one-time list.
Okay. So UVM is okay, 600?
Yeah,
So two,
we did 603,
605.
yeah.
Okay.
And we'd already done 605.1. And we did 606 in the higher ed, and then 607, we added the $1 back for the Morgan Bar.
Yes.
We got that.
Yeah.
So we're done with higher ed in the base. We are not done with it in the one times.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Keep it posted. We'll have a one-time conversation at some point. All right. Tiff, did you have something?
I'm
You
kind of embarrassed to say.
don't
that I
have to be
one.
embarrassed. You have one, great.
B 326, OEO weatherization services.
Okay,
Almost everything else is in flux. We have requests for base funding for food assistance. We have the, B 313 and 14 and substance use, mental health. Those are really in flux. The committees, and at any rate, housing is its own
right.
issue.
There's an
So
issue, yeah. So much of this is
I seem to
on
be
my
kind of
list.
a messy committee member.
You're not at all messy.
These are all kind of, they tend to get resolved, towards the end. So.
See you in June.
See you. So, anyway.
No, you've got the portfolio that has the end
Well,
of
things
the last things to go. Yeah. Well, we have a lot going on and everybody saw the spreadsheets that there's a lot of decisions we have to make and that's where a lot of your stuff shows up. Thank you.
Okay.
One is one. Trevor.
Which one was it? B what?
B 326.
Okay, great. Trevor.
Okay, corrections. B 335,
55.
administration.
Yeah, that's on page 31 for me. Okay, so you're
I'll find a place.
trying to close that.
No major changes.
Okay,
336, roll board, same thing. Pretty standard.
parole board, yeah.
Correctional education. It had a little bit of a climb, but basically it's on par.
Okay. Is this where there's some language about education? Or is there language related to education or what was that area that DOC had language? Or is that correctional services? It's somewhere else, but,
Yeah, it's not here.
okay.
Correction institutions, I think. Right.
I don't have any specific line.
I think there's something in the,
There's some changes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But B 337, we're going
Yeah.
to close. Okay,
Correctional services, a number of things there, so we'll keep that open for
Okay.
now. And 338.1, justice reinvestment too, as you know, we've got H219 on the wall here. There's a pot of money within this budget line, it's about 490,000. And I've had conversations with House Judiciary and also corrections institutions about utilizing that justice reinvestment to money. It's 490,000 there. I've been sitting on the Coordinated Justice Reform Advisory Council, and we were tasked with making recommendations for this. And it was a bigger number when we first started. Now it's been allocated to base funding, so we made a decision to ask to be done away with because we didn't think it was worth all our collective time to do this, and made a recommendation to take the 490 and give it back. Well, it is in DOC now, but basically give them permission to allocate those costs to reentry services as they see fit. I've since had a conversation with what 219 is proposing, which is a one kids apart.
Right.
Okay. It's already existing in the Chittenden women's facility. And they want to expand the pilot in the men's facility in Northern State. Okay, but anyway, it just so happens they need 100,000 to backfill a program at DMH, forensic assessment program. So that's 100,000. Of these 390, the ask from Lund is exactly 390.
Oh, for the kids apart.
And they put the appropriation in that bill.
Right.
So when it comes before us, I'm going to suggest to take the money out of that. Because the money's already sitting at DOC.
Okay,
All right, so if we're okay with, we'll have this conversation when we pick up the team.
okay,
We'll just make notation in the web report about how it was.
okay. So it's not any new money, it's
Exactly.
existing money. I like bills with existing money, yeah. Okay,
I'm gonna keep it open until we
Yeah.
have that other conversation.
Okay. and we have that on our list to review. When is that, Aaron? Tomorrow? We're doing 219? Yeah, okay. So,
Yeah, so we'll just keep that open until. We have that conversation.
okay. I'm feeling better about listening to that bill now that you've told me that. Thank you.
339, this is the out-of-state beds.
Yeah.
Piece of it. It's been this number for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I think this covers probably about 140 beds out of state. Currently, we're utilizing about 124 beds. So it's pretty much on par.
Yeah.
with it.
Okay, so you're good to close that?
Yes.
Everybody okay with that?
Question.
Yep.
About that, so this is a contracted cost per set of beds, so if we have 124 beds, we're not getting a credit back.
We pay for a certain number of beds, and that number is higher than what we're utilizing. Okay, and it builds, and we pay for it regardless of whether we use all those positions anyway, all those beds.
Right. I mean, if we
If we use
more, if
less-
we had more, we'd be charged more, but if we're using less, we're not.
Yeah,
It's a contract.
Yeah.
that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And we also, within a contract, there's the, even though we're not paying for them, we have like another 30 beds that we could utilize, which we would have to then pay for.
Sure.
340, which is recreation, no changes there.
Okay, so we can close that?
Yeah.
Pretty good, okay?
And same thing with the offender work program.
Okay.
It's gone down a little bit, but it's pretty much on par.
Okay. Everybody seems good with that?
I'm good for now.
Okay. A&R will come around later, and judiciary will come around later. Okay.
Yeah,
There's stuff, okay. You're not running all this stuff. Tom, did you say you had something?
Yeah, I have to put at least a couple of.
Okay,
So one. Human resources.
108.
Starting with 108. Operations, generally speaking, is fine. There's one of the, I believe in the departmental transfer. So the administration created a new position, the chief communications officer. But they put that position in DHR
oh, yes.
to pay for.
So they could transfer.
Spread it all out over the, yeah,
So that's, so essentially one of their positions was repurposed for AOA. B 108.1.
so you're good with closing B 108?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody fine with that? Think so?
108.1 is, increases there are mostly related to pay act. In employee benefits and wellness,
So you're good to close, I just want to be clear, so we're all.
yes.
So Maria has this, we're closing B 108.1,
So B 109.
yeah,
So the issue that made here, it's not terribly complicated, but there's one time that we have to deal with, which is in status 75 about the reclassification project, which is a 2-year project or 18 months to 2-year project.
Yeah.
Which is only about reducing the classifications
that's right, from,
1900 to about 1,000. Which they're,
and that's not in here though.
that'll be
The
in
one
somewhere in
time.
the one time, but
Right.
so, and which is only the first part of the project, so this is only paying, this is going, we'll probably see this carry forward next year.
Yeah, okay,
Because the second piece of it is about the compensation for the new positions, and that's kind of gonna be a pay act plus negotiation whenever that project is
Okay.
done. The other thing that stands out is, and under the operating expense as well, it's only about $75,000. They've changed consultants through contracting positions, so this was the low bid. And that consultant will be, advises them on all of this, all the benefit packages, those helps them with the negotiations about what healthcare, et cetera, to buy. So that can be closed.
okay, everybody good, we'll close B 109.
B 125. This legislative council.
Yeah.
And that can be closed.
Okay,
126 is the legislature, that can be closed.
not seeing anybody saying no to those, so we'll continue.
126, there's no changes in that. So that can be 126.1.
Okay, so Ledge IT,
Yeah.
everybody looks okay with that, okay?
And 127 is the fiscal committee.
Yeah.
That were expensive meetings.
I know, it's supposed to, it should say office, not committee.
It should.
I don't know if we can get that changed.
So I think it's because the committee,
Oh,
we
the
all work
reports.
with the committee.
That's right.
The committee is the authorizing entity.
Okay,
And we've had this conversation, you are correct, it's a little confusing, but we've had this conversation. And that's where it's coming down to, in statute, we're the joint fiscal committee,
okay,
that we're just, we're staff.
just, you're not just anything, okay.
Can you call it JTOC?
No, actually, it would be with an F, so we won't go there, okay.
So that is, no changes from the
Okay.
governor's recommend,
So we'll-
arms be 120. So 127 can be closed, 128 can be closed,
Okay, great,
and.
I just have one little question.
yes.
Do you know if the farmer's night budget is in the sergeant at arms budget?
We were doing 10,000 a year.
Yeah,
I don't, but, I can ask.
I remember that being an issue a couple of years ago, and so.
We created it because we weren't,
It
it
wasn't in there before.
was never in there,
Yeah.
so hopefully it's still in
I
there.
just wanted to.
Maria will
make sure
check.
that-
I'm
Okay.
fairly certain it is, but I'm gonna verify.
Okay, trust but verify. Thank you.
I was not, bullied or asked to change that from any of the producers of Farmers Night. So,
All right, well, good, you're there and you'd know.
And anything that I have in ACCD, I have a meeting with them
Okay,
this week. All right, I need to find Human Rights Commission.
that,
Well, we're not closing.
We're not
Human
closing
Rights
Human-
Commission.
right,
LAOB, which is, I believe, under the Access Opportunity Board, I believe that's under the
CB,
HCB.
yeah,
Where is that?
I think it still is a one, was that as a one time?
It's in a one-time thing, so we're not gonna close that conversation. yet.
Okay,
It's
so-
not part of, they're housed within VHCB.
Right,
They're funded separately. There are one times they would like, and we'll have that, whatever the conversation is, They'd like to be in base. The 1.6
Right.
represents their kind of flat line for what they spent this year for operational stuff. And they'll be adding a couple of
Right.
staff. But they are meant to be in base.
Right.
And so the question there's also going to be a conversation about the use of the cannabis money with respect to their project stuff, but that's.
That's a separate conversation, right?
Human Rights Commission, there's a bill that's proposing 6 new positions, 6 new FTEs. The BAA has two partial, so we have to deal with, at the very least, we need to include that in the budget. And then make a decision about the 4 further FTEs plus 2 part-times. And that, however that conversation
Right.
happens, or whether it's through a bill or whether that gets inserted in the budget.
It would
or-
probably be a budget then.
So I need to figure out what all of that technical stuff is for that. And then I think for me, that is.
Ag, do we have all the ag stuff?
All the ag, which numbers are those again? I'm sorry.
200.
I'm right there, actually. So 222,
We didn't cut, we picked off,
I think I was still keeping it open.
Clean
I haven't had
water.
a conversation yet with them, but I.
right, clean water is the only one that B 225.2.
24.
That is not.
That's not checked off either.
Because those
Those
are all the working lands fund, the cash crop or crop cash, those are all the.
would probably be, if they happen, they would be one time, not at the base.
Well, the base exists.
Right,
And so, again, so I just don't want to close it off because we're still gonna go through those lists, but.
Right.
You're probably, yes, you're right.
Those
it's
would be
probably
one
gonna be
time.
One time, so if we haven't closed them off, B 222 can be closed,
okay.
223 can be closed.
We did close those two.
Okay, so I
So the
didn't.
question is whether, so you still want to keep open B 224?
Yep,
Okay, and then the other one is 225.1. No, 225.2, clean water.
And then checked off.
I had it checked off.
Right.
I didn't. Oh, maybe I left it open because it was that clean water thing in the administration that I wanted to be sure we remembered, and now we've gotten that resolved.
and I know.
I don't think it is.
It was a note I made, just to be sure that we didn't forget that.
And so I guess we'll say the one-time conversation.
Is a separate,
later.
yes.
Just, yeah, the thing I got from them, which is again new to me, is the department supported much of what's in the one-time money. The administration did not prioritize those.
That's right.
And so that's a conversation, I mean, that seemed like an awkward conversation to say to the Secretary of Agriculture. But you really like these programs and you really would love to see them funded, right? And, his boss.
So there's a lot of those awkward conversations that are, yeah.
And so that's just, there's a
Yeah.
whole list of them for the ag stuff. And I think, ACCD, I'm gonna have a longer conversation with them perhaps tomorrow. So
Okay.
that covers everything I have.
Okay, thank you.
So you did close out 225.2.
Yes, I think 225.2 we can close.
Yeah, it's standard.
And
Yeah.
we're holding 220.
We're holding 224.
Yeah. the other two are-
Okay.
close up.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, I guess the only reason to keep those open is if any of the one-time
Base.
days, but that's unlikely.
unlikely this year
Yeah.
is where I'm just, okay. Great, thank you. Does anybody else have other things that they want to close their libraries, Lynn, governor's
Well, no,
office?
I have to touch base. I think the library is just about ready to be closed. I just want to ask a couple of questions and then I've got, the others all I have outstanding, treasurer. Yes.
We didn't close the governor's office though, I think.
Mike, are you all done?
Governor.
Are you all done? Are you all closed off?
Well, a lot of you have one-time things, so,
No, I haven't done, I think that's probably pretty straightforward, but let me just double check with people on that.
on the
Same
governor's
with the
office.
lieutenant governor, which is also pretty straightforward.
Did we already close the lieutenant governor?
I don't think so.
What number is the, oh, okay, so the governor is 124.
Lieutenant governor is 129.
Okay.
There's really probably nothing in either one of those. I know there was, a decrease in the lieutenant governor and some of the, benefits.
There's an increase.
Well, they got rid of the medical insurance was not necessary for that.
But
So there's been a decline. I'm not sure exactly where that is. That might be.
the whole thing went up, the whole thing went up 27,000. It wasn't very much money. So if you want to just confirm those so we can get those
Yeah.
closed, that would be great. Let's get all the easy ones out.
Yeah, and then
We can.
the rest of them are AHS and Mix and Bowl.
Does anybody else have, Mike, did we close just some of the basic education stuff? I think we closed teacher retirement.
We did, but you know, we still have, I still have a number of pieces. I think it's gonna be up to the committee to make decisions on.
Well, so I would say that, that probably, special ed formula grants and state place students, we probably could close those out.
Yeah, and
They're comfortable, they're kind of are what they are.
I,
This is on B 502 and 503 on page 36.
yeah, I would agree, and I have reached out around state place students to find more information, but have yet to.
The special ed we're opening up.
It's a formula grant.
Yeah.
So if Mike is comfortable,
I mean.
it's a lot, but it is a formula grant. So we don't really have a lot of say over that.
No, I mean, that's the governor recommended, and I
Right,
think that's it.
yeah.
State place students.
So sometimes you can close something and then you say, I still want to know for sort of the future what we want. I have a note on here, Mike, that you had talked about. We know these are students in state custody and are many people going out of state. That's a good research project, may not have a lot to do with the budget, the current budget.
As I said, I've reached out.
Yeah.
Haven't heard back.
Okay. Okay. But would you be okay with closing it? and then just
Yep, I
continue
would say,
to-
yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
think that's it.
So this is 503.
503.
Okay.
It's something to probably put on our,
Yeah.
something for future consideration, for better
For
understanding.
further understanding, right, that's a good thing to make a note of. What about if we jump back to their administration? They're going down. Their administration, finance administration, which is their central office, basically.
Yeah, I would say that's. It's set and I have reached out to try and understand the decrease.
I think a lot of that is the, either ESSER funds or other COVID-related funds that
Yeah.
are rolling off now.
Yeah.
So that's
Federal
what
funds
that,
now.
when it's federal funds, that's right. They,
You know, Esther was a lot of.
ESSER was a lot of money. And they had ESSER 1, 2, and 3, and then they had gear, and then they had, I mean,
So I would
everything's
say,
got.
yeah, we could 500.
Okay. So we'll close B 500. Again, if you find out something before we vote, you can let us know. Education services, I think is the same issue around federal funds, but maybe you want to check into that a little bit more and make sure you understand that one. Because the federal funds went from 340 to
Right,
200.
it's a lot of money, but
Yeah.
I would.
Probably the same answer, but it would be good to just confirm that. And the AELs, we're waiting for the correct number. I think we're
Yeah.
close to the correct number.
Yeah, I should keep hearing this morning on that.
Okay.
Right.
And that shows up both in B 504 and then under flexible pathways, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Both those sections are impacted.
Okay. Okay, and then B505 is all the school budgets rolled up, so we don't do that until,
I'm sorry,
Go
can I
ahead.
just mention one thing about 505? So this committee could adjust the education payment as needed within the number from Julia Richter. It will be adjusted again once the budget goes to the Senate.
Right.
Sometimes we've waited till the budget goes to the Senate, but it might be a good idea as a reminder to both us and the Senate. If you adjusted it, we've had a year where we just neglected to adjust it because we
yes.
thought we'd do it in the Senate and then.
No, we should adjust it.
Neglected.
But do we have a number yet?
So, I will, right now, according to Julia, I am looking at the email, it's, 1,990,192,398.
1,990,192,398.
238, the last three digits are 238,
238.
yes.
Let's know what, what was that?
1,990,192, and then 238,
238.
yes.
So we're down $7 million.
And that's based on budgets that were just.
Yes,
Just passed.
that is, school budget data has been updated since the GovRec.
Yeah.
And. yeah,
And there's
that's
still
what it is.
budgets out, because I know our district
Right.
doesn't vote.
That's correct.
We won't have the right number till the end of the session.
That's right, that's. the-
So, but I think what Maria is saying is if we don't make it, if we don't make an adjustment, there'll be no little
Yeah.
explanation underneath, and that will be a problem for later possibly. So, if you guys are good with that, let's take that number and
Yeah.
put that in here. The Senate's gonna adjust it anyway, but then they'll have the reminder because it'll say House version based on budgets to date.
Right.
Okay? So we'll close that out with a new number.
Over there, gonna be. Thought together.
Just a little $2 billion number, we just said, okay.
That old saying, a million here, a million there.
Right,
Pretty
so here and now it's a billion here, a billion there, right? Lynn, did you have a
I was
question?
just gonna say that was the work of the school boards.
Yes. It is, so that, I mean, 7 million down in a year when healthcare is up 16% and everything else, that's very good.
It was last year's repercussion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Historia, do they put, when it gets to us, is the number there what is estimated as part of the December 1 letter when they do kind of a survey of school budget?
I believe so, yes,
Okay.
yes, and now we know a little bit more because some of the budgets have passed, so,
Right. Okay.
yeah, it's,
Yeah, I just didn't know. whether it was
Starting
a number type survey.
yeah. All right, so that one's good, and then I was gonna move on, but do you have a question
I
on
was
this one?
just gonna ask Maria if she had any idea of what proportion, any idea of what proportion the ones that post out, or how many more schools?
so, I think you asked Julia, Richter, because that's her area, that is absolutely not my area, so I can follow up with her.
Some schools don't, like the Essex Westford School doesn't vote till April,
Yeah.
and Burlington may be,
Mount Mansfield just changed theirs too.
Mount Mansfield changed theirs, so,
So we haven't voted on ours. either.
right, when is yours gonna vote?
April 2nd.
Yeah,
This
so.
is next
So
week.
there are still, but the vast majority are now, there might be somewhere between 3 and 10 or something like that.
Possible.
And then there's the ones that failed, which there aren't that many, but. So
Very
the
good.
number will change again, so that's good enough for now. So Mike, on transportation,
The city school.
Yeah, I
are
think
you
that,
closing that? And how about merger support grants?
yeah,
Level funded, let's close that.
Standard number.
Yeah, that may change in the future. English language categorical aid. That's,
yeah.
we're good to close that? That's level funded.
Yeah.
Nutrition, we're holding.
And that can change between who shows up at school for one.
We got adjusted with the student weights, didn't we? Part of the student weight, we gave a lot more
They should be in there.
weight
Yeah.
to, like now.
That would show up in the adjusted education payment.
I know, I'm just wondering.
What's categorical?
Yeah, what is that?
It means it's just they give a gift.
You have to look at the education budget book.
Yes,
Maria?
and I can also get a good explanation later on that. And it's probably, I'm sure it's well, that's actually a really good idea.
Let me see what I
I
can
just-
find.
I assume someone looking at this. and
Yes.
It sounds like it's something we've been doing forever.
Yes.
Then when we changed the weights, I thought the weights were to help, but maybe that's not enough. I guess if you have one student that's not English learning, the weight's not gonna help cover it. I don't,
I never did, I could be wrong, was that BL was separated out from the other adjustments to rates that were made.
Yeah, we did do a study on that.
Anyway.
Get you a good answer. Let's just. put
I'm
it
just
down.
running
I
through
don't know,
their
I'm over
presentation.
my head with asking.
Maria, I thought that categorically was just like have a A for something special ed. They just give you a number.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I just want to see the words. I don't want to give you a bad answer.
So let's hold off on that one. I'm just trying to see if I can find it in their budget presentation. Oh, they didn't put it in this budget presentation. The ups and downs. They do not. See that? 2.2. They say absolutely nothing about it in their ups and downs. So that would be good to find out more about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we'll get it. Thank you, Maria. All right, so we'll leave that open. We're leaving nutrition open. I think that may be something you may be going back in there. And it's education fund, not general fund. After school grant program, do you know?
Yeah, I think we can close that. That larger number is because of the kind of a sale, so
That's right.
irony of irony.
The canvas revenue is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's why that went up. And then the triple E grant,
Yep.
that's okay to close. Maybe 510.
Everybody too.
Technical education. I know that the Commerce Committee is looking at the CTEs. And they're doing a bill. I don't know if you could check with the chair or vice chair, Mike, on, we should probably look at their committee letter and see if they said anything about this.
Stuff in the committee letter, because Mike and I talked about those up at night. Still been working on it. They're looking for some money too, but I don't know if I ended up not moving forward. Committee.
Let's see. Number is this 511.
I think Mike has something in there.
I don't see, I don't see that they talked about the CTEs at all.
The CTEs do get federal money. So funding government,
This is ed fund.
whatever this is, just from the,
But I'm not sure what,
what exactly is technical education there.
right.
It's the CTE programs that they were.
Chris, did Ways and Means do anything about this in their budget level? B511, tech ed, comes from the ed fund.
They did not. The education committee did, but.
Nobody is, this seems to be a lost child.
That can't be a full cost, but it's easy.
No.
No.
Unfortunately, when AOE comes in, it's not something they spend any time talking about. So So Mike, maybe you want to find out a little bit more about that.
Look at their letter here and it looks.
No, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I asked Mike about it just because I had an email request. Email.
All right, so
So if you can check on that,
Okay, yeah.
that would be great. Thank you. And then the State Board of Ed, we had a presentation, so we'll have a conversation about that.
that's one of those things we have to
Yes,
collectively.
right.
Yea or nay.
Yes. Well, and, or so, do we do some? Do we do, so that's part of the, yeah, anything that's on our big spreadsheet that we talked about yesterday.
And that's separate from the 4 million that the,
Yes. Yes. And I have an idea about that. So I think that's everything in education. You've got a few things to check on, and then we've closed a bunch of things. Thank you. We're making progress. Does anybody else? Did you have any, do we have any? What do you have left of yours?
We could close Labor Relations Board.
Okay, what number is that?
It's gonna take me a second.
Take a look at my little cheat sheet here. B 135. Okay, that's on page 10 if you're at the 66 page one. Everybody okay with closing the Labor Relations Board? B 135, okay. Did we already do VOSHA? Yes, we did.
Yes.
So for you, Mike, we're figuring out the Cannabis Control Board. Is that the one that we have open at this point?
Yes.
And ethics is not,
136.
that's Mike Maricki.
Oh,
Mike M and Mike N.
Oh, good.
You're okay.
Oh, good.
We'll have a conversation about the Ethics Commission, and I'll talk
okay,
about it
that's
too.
fine.
I know, that was I always lived in fear, like, we're gonna get to this
Yeah.
point and I'm gonna find out that I didn't pay any attention to this whole section of the budget that I was responsible for.
Just had that moment, but
It's like the nightmare of, you walk into your class and it's the final exam and you haven't been in any of that nightmare. I had those.
Anybody ever done that?
I have not actually done it. I've just dreamt about it. It's a music 100 class and then you're gonna rock the record. I hadn't been to any of the classes.
You may not want to disclose this to the world back here.
I was music. I still got a good grade. Didn't happen. We're humans.
Yeah.
That's the point. Okay, so that's the one that you're.
yeah, and I mean, the only other thing is this was a one-time special fund spend, that some language around the pilot, the reimbursement to municipalities, you had asked me.
Oh, yes,
To check in with VLTC,
yes,
and I did, and they were
they're okay.
approving of
Okay,
this language.
Okay, so remind me which number that one,
So that's in the language,
in the language section.
on page 25.
Okay,
You got this, 6,
no, this is on the language section.
no.
Oh,
20, okay.
page 25.
Yeah.
So we're talking about E 142.2.
Yes.
So VLT is okay. The question I had, let's just see what Ways and Means said about this. No, if Chris remembers anything about. This is E 142.2, the municipal buyout reimbursement program, taking $1 million from pilot.
Yeah, I think you might want to keep that one open for right now.
Keep it open? Okay.
Who has this?
Mike
That's me. That
Nigro.
one is.
That is, no, that's good, because I wasn't sure if it. Only because it said,
Okay,
the commissioner of public safety had to certify.
well, the properties, but it's tax and pilot, so.
Yeah, okay.
You're off the hook on this one. All right, we're gonna keep that open. It sounds like we have a couple more things to discuss, maybe. I had a note to also talk to the chair of Ways and Means. What my concern on this is, is that it's a new program. It is, they're gonna make cities and towns whole for the taxes, the value of tax value of property that's needs a FEMA buyout, 100% for 5 years and 50% for another 5 years. So we're talking a 10-year tax abatement that we're paying using local options tax to pay for. So I do have, it is a new program. So I think we don't have a lot of language around it, so I will make a note to speak to, so we can maybe talk to Ways and Means about that. And then later, Chris, if you have information, we can chat with you about that.
Yeah, I think we'll have some insight, you are already beginning a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I have a meeting coming up. I can talk about it then. Okay. I just have to remember to bring the sticky note with me. I write these notes, then I go out for the meeting that next time. Okay, so I think is that
142.1 or 142.2?
point two is, the other one is eliminating the city of Montpelier as a separate amount of money because 100% of their amount now due is now covered by the general pilot. Did Ways and Means talk about that?
Is that Madam Chair?
142.1.
Yeah, the Ways and Means did review that and they were comfortable with proceeding with the government.
They were comfortable with that. Okay. Great. So are you comfortable with that then, Mike?
Yep.
Is everybody comfortable with 142.1? We'll close out that. Excellent. Okay, so Mike, you just got that one thing, couple of things to take away. Just checking.
There is, Madam Chair, one thing on 142.1 was, part of that, you might want to just keep open pending discussion on the municipal buyout. Because, the addition of, one of those tweaks that 4C, I believe.
Oh, yes, we have to-
speaks that, but the city of Montpelier piece, Ways and Means was fine.
Okay, so we're gonna hold that underlined in 4C. Thank you for bringing that up, because if we don't do 4C, then 4C comes out of one.
Right.
See where it says in
Oh,
4C?
okay.
4C is about the municipal buyout program, so,
You're right into 142.
right, okay. So that's only keep if doing 142.2.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that strike out to the city of Montpelier doesn't mean that, Montpelier is no longer paying for it. They're just not getting a separate appropriation because it is now being paid for out of the main. So, anybody who's listening who's not in the room, that's.
Great.
Can we get 5 minutes?
I've just gotten a couple of requests. I think this is a great time. Let us break and come back at 11 and see where we are. We'll regroup for that. So let's